Hello and welcome to this hands-on video. Now, this project takes a plain English question like which city has the highest debit spend last month and automatically writes SQL, run it against a real banking database and returns a plain English answer. The user never sees the SQL. So now let's understand the code. So now let's first understand the database. So in this database, we have 6 tables: customer, branch, account, merchant, transaction, and dispute. Customer table have customer ID, name, city, and state. Branch table have branch ID, name, city, and state. The account table have account ID, customer ID, branch ID, account type, open date, and the status. The merchant table have the merchant ID and the name. The transaction table have transaction ID, account ID, transaction date, amount in INR, transaction type, channel, merchant ID, category, and the description. And finally, we have the dispute table, which have the dispute ID, transaction ID, raise date, reason code, status, and the resolution. So now you know our problem statement and the database. So we are going to solve this problem using some tools like DB query, which executes the generated SQL query. Second tool we have is DB schema, which fetches the schema details of the database. Third, we have DB list tables, which list all the tables in the database. And fourth, we have DB query checker, which validates the correctness of the SQL query before execution. We got all of these tools from LangChain SQL Database Toolkit. Now, we have the tools, we have the database, and we know the problem statement. So it's time to write the agent instruction. So now in the agent instruction prompt, we define the database schema and the relationship between them. We also define the important join paths. And then we give some query rules and guardrails, like always begin by listing tables with SQL DB list tables, and then inspect needed schema with SQL DB schema. An instruction like select only the required columns, never use select star, and so on. And after that, we give the output format here, and to enhance the responses, we have given the example queries for internal guidance. Once the agent instructions are ready, it's time to create a Text2SQL React agent. So we define the state and the graph here and then compile the graph. Once the graph is compiled, we can just call our agent and it will answer our questions. So once the graph is compiled, we can run our Text2SQL agent and we can query it and get the response in the natural language. For example, count active accounts by account type, and the answer was there are currently 12 active checking accounts and 10 active saving accounts. So what happened here is when we gave the query, count the active account by account type, the agent made a SQL query, queried the database, and gave the response back in the natural language. So now when we will integrate it with the FastAPI, the core intelligence is in the agent.py, which builds a LangGraph agent backed by OpenAI. Now also, this project also had 3 things: RAG projects, which didn't have dual authentication with API keys, and JWTs, a sliding window rate limiter to control OpenAI spends, and centralized exception handling so stack traces never reaches the client. So now let's just start with the config.py. Now all the setting is in one place: LLM model, database URL, API key, JWT secret, rate limit numbers, and app_env. We also use Pydantic setting here to validate types at the startup, so bad value crashes immediately with a clear message rather than client breaking later. Also, you can see we are using LRU cache here, which means .env file is passed exactly once at the startup, and we don't have to pass it again and again on every request. Next, we have database.py. Now, here is only one function which takes the database URL string and returns a LangChain SQL database object. LangChain's SQL database wraps SQL query and adds a schema introspection method the agent's SQL toolkit needs to describe the tables to the LLM. Now, this is the most important file and it has 3 parts. First, the system prompt. The system prompt at the top is what makes the agent correct. It describes all the 6 tables, their columns, the join paths, and the strict rules, like never select star, always limit to 10, always validate SQL before executing, never run writes. This prompt is sent to the LLM on every single request. Next, the LangGraph graph has 2 nodes, the agent and the tool. The agent node calls the LLM. If the LLM requests a tool, the tool node runs it and feeds the result back. This loop repeats until LLM gives a plain answer with no tool calls. The SQL toolkit provides 4 tools: list tables, inspect schema, validate SQL, and execute SQL. The agent always validates before executing. That's enforced by the system instruction. And finally, we have call Text2SQL agent. Now here, call Text2SQL agent is the function route calls. It takes the question plus any prior conversation history, streams the graph and returns the final plain text answer. Next file we have main.py. Now, here the lifespan function runs three things at the startup in order to connect to the database, create the chat OpenAI client with the temperature 0 for deterministic SQL, and then compile the LangGraph agent. The compiled graph is expensive to build, so it happens once and it's stored in app.state, so every request can reuse it. Now, below the lifespan, create app, add CORS, the rate limiter middleware, the exception handler, and the three routes, and mounts the front end as static files on the root route. The next file we jump onto is dependencies.py. Here, three one-liners, get DB, get agent, get LLM, each yielding a singleton from the app.state. Route declares these as dependencies and receives the same shared instance created at startup. No reinitialization per request. Now, in dependencies.py, we got three one-liners, get DB, get agent, and get LLM, each yielding a singleton from app.state. Router declares these as dependencies and receives the same shared instance created at the startup. So, no reinitialization per request happens. Now, let's jump onto schemas.py. So, we have 5 Agentic models here. First, query request takes a question string and an optional session ID. The query response returns the answer, the original question, processing time in milliseconds, and the session ID to use on the next turn. Next, we have health response, which is just status and the ENV. And after that, we have the error response, which gives a detailed string and a machine-readable code, is what every single error in the API returns. So, client only needs to handle one error format. And finally, we have the token response, which carries the JWT from the authorization endpoint. Now, let's jump on to authorization. So, what we do here is header-based API key check. Two things worth noting. Auto error is set to false so that the missing headers returns a 401, not 422, which means malformed request, and 401 means missing credentials. And the distinction matters for client. The comparison uses secret.compare.digest instead of equals. This prevents timing attacks when an attacker can detect a mismatch byte by byte based on how fast the comparison returns. Now next we have JWT authorization.py. Here, the authorization router exposes post/auth/token, which sends username and password and get back a signed JWT. The token contains three things: subject, expiry, and issued at date. And to verify, a route uses getCurrentUser, which decodes the JWT against the secret key. No database lookup needed. So, the file has clear comments on the trade-off. Use API key for small closed groups of callers you control, and use JWT when you need per user identities, short-lived credentials, or independent revocation. The query endpoint uses API keys. This JWT endpoint is here to show both patterns in one project. And now, next we have the middle. So now, let's jump to middleware, where we will see the rate limiting. So, rate limiting is critical for GenAI service because every query endpoint calls cost real OpenAI tokens. This middleware uses a sliding window. It keeps a DQ of recent request timestamps per client and evicts anything older than the window before checking. Sliding window is better than fixed window because it prevents the edge burst where a client can double the limit by firing at 23:59 and at midnight. Now, after the middleware, let's jump on to exceptions.py. So, agent error carries both a developer message and a safe message. The handler logs the full internal details but only sends safe message to the client. In production, no stack trace ever reaches the response. Value error maps to 400, runtime error to 503. Every handler returns the error response shape, same format regardless of which exception is fired. So now first we have health.py. Here we have two endpoints. First, get health, which returns 200 if the process is alive, aliveness pro. And the second endpoint we have is get/ready, which actually calls get agent and returns 503 if the agent hasn't finished initialization yet, a readiness probe. So container orchestrators use the distinction to avoid routing traffic to a healthy but not ready instance during the startup window. No authorization on the either by design. And second route we have is query.py. This is the main endpoint. So first it has the session management, where we load the prior history if a session ID was passed, otherwise creates a new UUI ID. Second, agent call via asyncio. The LangGraph stream is synchronous and blocking. It makes several OpenAI calls internally to thread offloads so the event loop stays free for the other request. Third, error handling. Agent error is raised with a sanitized safe message in production so internal details don't leak. Fourth, save the turn to conversation store so the follow-up question have the context. And fifth, background task. Log query is registered as a background task so the response goes to the client immediately and the JSON log writes happens after. Zero logging overhead from the client's perspective. And finally, we have the delete a route here which clears the conversation. So now that you have understood all the integrations, let's run the app. So I'll use the command uvcon app. Watch the startup logs here. The database connected, table listed, agent compiled, and when you see startup complete, agents ready, the server is accepting the request. So now let's open this URL. So here's the front end of my main.py, and now let's give the API key. I'll give a simple query, count active accounts by type, which we saw in the notebook, initially. And as you can see, the post is chat completion is going on, and boom, we got the answer. And here's the answer. There are 12 active checking accounts and 10 active saving accounts in the system. That's correct. And now let's try another query, which is top 5 merchants by dispute count. So the top 5 merchants by dispute count are as follows: Swiggy with 2 disputes, employer payroll with 2 disputes, Uber with 1, IRCTC with 1, and bank transfer with 1. So we got the answer back in the natural language, which is correct. Now if we want to check the endpoints individually, we can just add /docs. It will open all the endpoints here. So now I'll authorize it. I'll give my API key here and authorize it and close it. And then let's run the health endpoint and try it out, it's working correctly or not. So it will give us the status and the environment. So let's run this, and the status is okay and the development and the environment is in development. That's good. Now let's look at the readiness of the agent. So let's try it out again, and it will just say ready. Yeah, status is ready and agent is initialized. Also, we can try out different endpoints here, like query here. So we can give this query, top 3 merchants by dispute count. I'll just try it out. Let's just make it 5, and now let's execute it. We should get the same answer we got in the front end. So we got Swiggy with 2, employer payroll with 2, and Uber with 1, IRCTC with 1, and bank transfer with 1. So our query endpoint is working perfectly fine. And here we got the session ID one, where we can give the session ID and query again. And here's the authorization token endpoint here. So I can just change the password here as SJ, username as Somil, password again SJ, and grant type, that's good. And I'll just execute it. So our endpoints are working perfectly fine, and the front end Agent2SQL is working correctly, and we got the correct answers back. So that's it for this hands-on video. You can get the whole code from the link below.